Every time I tried to leave home, my parents held a family emergency that somehow always involved my bank account being frozen by the end of the day. The first time it happened, I thought it was a coincidence, maybe even bad timing, but I should have seen the pattern forming right there. I was 24, finally preparing to move out of my parents' house after saving for 3 years. I had just packed my last box when my mom knocked on my door with tears already in her eyes. She said my dad had collapsed in the garage and wasn't responding. I dropped everything and ran downstairs, my heart hammering, expecting to find him unconscious on the floor. Instead, my dad was sitting on a stool, pale but awake, holding his chest like he was in pain. My mom told me to stay home and cancel my moving truck just in case. That night, while I was sleeping in confusion and fear, I got a notification from my bank saying my account had been temporarily frozen due to suspicious activity. I thought it was unrelated, a simple fraud alert. But when I called the bank the next morning, they said the request had come from a verified family contact. I didn't even know that was possible. I told myself I would still move out once everything cleared. But 2 days later, when I tried to reschedule my move, another emergency happened. My mom screamed from the kitchen that she couldn't feel her hands. My dad said she might be having a stroke. We rushed to the hospital, only for the doctors to find nothing life-threatening, just severe anxiety and dehydration. By the time I got home, my bank account was frozen again. This time I felt a flicker of unease I couldn't explain. I asked my parents if they had contacted my bank. My dad looked offended and said I was being paranoid during a family crisis. I let it go because guilt is powerful when it's wrapped in fear. A week later, I tried again to leave. I had already loaded my suitcase into my car and was backing out of the driveway when my phone rang. My dad was panicking, saying there was a gas leak in the house. He told me if I left, the whole neighborhood could explode. I came back immediately, shaking. Fire trucks never arrived and no leak was ever confirmed. That night, my bank account was frozen again. I checked my email more carefully this time and noticed something strange. Each freeze request came with a slightly different reason, but all referenced account holder requested security intervention. I was the only account holder. At least that's what I believed at the time. The pattern became sickeningly clear over the next month. Every time I made concrete plans to leave, something in the house would break or someone would fall ill. And every single time, within hours, my financial access would disappear. My parents always had a reason ready. My mom cried more than I had ever seen in my life. My dad became more controlling, insisting I shouldn't be alone right now. I started sleeping with my wallet under my pillow like it would protect me from something I couldn't see yet. One night I overheard them talking in the kitchen after another episode. My mom whispered that it was getting harder to keep me from leaving. My dad said they just needed a little more time until everything was fully transferred. I froze in the hallway, barely breathing. Transferred didn't sound like a medical term. It sounded like money. The next morning, I went to the bank in person without telling them. I expected clarity. Instead, I got confusion. The bank clerk told me my account had a secondary authorization profile tied to my identity. She said it allowed trusted family members to flag transactions and request temporary restrictions. I told her I never set that up. She frowned and said it was established years ago with full documentation. Years ago meant I would have been around 19, still living at home, still trusting them with everything. I requested copies of the authorization paperwork. She said I needed approval from the secondary account administrator. My stomach dropped when I asked who that was. She said my parents' names without hesitation. On the ride home, my hands shook so badly I could barely hold the steering wheel. Everything I thought I understood about my finances suddenly felt like a lie. When I confronted them that night, I didn't yell. I was too exhausted for anger. I asked them calmly why they had control over my bank account. My mom immediately started crying. She said it was for my protection, that I had gone through a rough mental health period years ago, and they were just helping stabilize me. My dad added that I had agreed to it when I wasn't thinking clearly. I didn't remember agreeing to anything like that, but they both spoke with such certainty that I felt my memory bending under the pressure. That was the first time I seriously doubted myself. The next attempt to leave was different. I didn't tell them. I pretended everything was normal for a week. I packed quietly. I arranged a rental apartment in a nearby city. I even set a moving date 2 weeks out. I felt like I finally had control again. Until the morning I woke up and couldn't access my banking app at all. It said my account was under legal review. No explanation, no timeline, just locked. When I went downstairs, my parents were already awake. They looked tense like they had been waiting for something. My mom said there had been another incident involving my credit activity overnight. My dad said it was serious this time. He said someone had flagged potential identity fraud. I felt my blood go cold. I asked what they had done. They both insisted they had done nothing. But my dad avoided eye contact. That afternoon, I went to a different bank branch and demanded answers. A different employee pulled up my file and looked genuinely uncomfortable. She said there had been multiple fraud reports submitted under my identity within the last 24 hours. Each report triggered automatic account freezes. I asked who submitted them. She hesitated before saying, "It appears to originate from your home network and verified family devices." That sentence made my entire reality tilt. It wasn't just authorization anymore. It was active interference. I started watching everything more closely after that. My parents' behavior became more calculated. They stopped doing dramatic emergencies and started doing quiet ones. My mom would casually ask if I had checked my account lately. My dad would mention strange security concerns he had heard about online banking. They were planting ideas now instead of staging crises, and every time I checked my account, something had changed. Limits reduced, transfers delayed, security flags increased. One night I stayed awake pretending to sleep on the couch. Around 2 a.m., I saw my dad downstairs on his laptop. He wasn't watching anything normal. He was navigating through what looked like banking security dashboards. My stomach dropped when I realized the screen matched my bank's interface. I silently recorded him with my phone. He was entering codes I didn't recognize. My mom joined him minutes later. They were whispering like they were coordinating something delicate. My mom said they couldn't let me access the remaining funds yet. My dad said the external transfer needed to go through before I got suspicious. I didn't sleep at all that night. The next morning, I called the bank again from outside the house. I told them I believed my identity was compromised. This time, the tone on the other end changed. They asked me to come in immediately and bring identification. When I arrived, they placed my account under a full fraud investigation hold. But then the investigator said something that made my stomach drop even further. He said there were signs my identity profile had been duplicated within a household-linked administrative system. I asked what that meant. He said it meant someone in my household likely had access to generate administrative overrides under my identity. Not just access to freeze my account, but to act as if they were me. I felt like the ground had disappeared under me. I asked him how long this had been happening. He said at least 4 years based on transaction logs. 4 years meant this started long before I tried to move out, before I even realized I was being controlled. When I returned home that evening, my parents were waiting. They weren't crying this time. They were calm, too calm. My mom said she knew I had gone to the bank. My dad said it was unfortunate I had misunderstood their intentions. Then my mom said something I didn't expect. She said they never meant to hide it forever. They just needed time to finish securing the assets. That word again? Assets. I asked them what assets they were talking about. My dad finally admitted it. He said I had inherited money from my maternal grandparents when I turned 18. He said they had been managing it because I wasn't ready. He said moving out would trigger distribution rules they couldn't control anymore. My mom added that once I left, the bank would release full access directly to me, and they would lose everything they had been carefully arranging. It hit me like a slow collapse instead of a shock. All those emergencies, all those freezes, they weren't about protecting me, they were about protecting control. I asked them if they had been taking money. My dad didn't deny it. He said they were borrowing it to stabilize the household investments. He said it was temporary. My mom said we were still a family and families share burdens. But then I remembered the whisper I overheard weeks ago. Until everything is fully transferred. I asked what transferred meant. Silence filled the room for the first time. My dad finally said they were close to moving the remaining funds into a trust they controlled. A permanent one I would benefit from later. That's when everything snapped into place. The emergencies weren't distractions. They were timing mechanisms. Every time I tried to leave, they needed to delay me long enough to reroute funds. Every bank freeze wasn't protection. It was a reset button. I backed away from them slowly. My mom started crying again, but it felt different this time. Less panic, more frustration. My dad told me I was overreacting to something that was standard financial planning. I walked out of the house that night and didn't come back. I stayed in a cheap motel and spent hours with a fraud attorney the next morning. He confirmed what I feared. What they did was illegal, not just unethical, criminal. He explained how identity-linked authorization abuse works. When someone has early access to financial documentation. He said it's often done by parents who normalize control early enough that the child never questions it. That sentence stayed with me longer than anything else. The investigation that followed revealed everything. My parents had been systematically moving money into layered accounts under shell authorizations tied to my identity. They had been using repeated fraud flags to lock me out whenever I got close to discovering it. The family emergencies were just distractions to keep me emotionally unstable while they worked. When the authorities finally confronted them, my mom broke first. She said they only wanted to secure my future. My dad insisted it was all temporary accounting strategy, but the records didn't lie. Neither did the digital logs from their devices. The final twist came when the investigator showed me something I still can't fully process. My parents had filed a guardianship petition 3 years earlier, claiming I had financial decision instability. It was never approved, but the attempt alone explained why they had so much administrative access during the evaluation period. They had been trying to make control permanent. Legally, financially, emotionally. The case is still ongoing, but I've been partially restored access to my accounts. Most of the funds are frozen in legal hold now. My parents live in a monitored situation awaiting trial proceedings, but the strangest part is what I keep thinking about late at night. Every emergency they staged always felt like panic in the moment. But now I realize it was precision. Every collapse, every scream, every hospital visit, all of it timed to a financial action I didn't know was happening. Sometimes I wonder how many times I almost escaped without realizing it, and how many times they smiled at me afterward, knowing I was still inside the system they built around me.